Cool. So yeah. So last week or this past week we went over the let's see, hold on. The path of breakthrough. Last week we went through the evolution. This week we went through the breakthrough into radiance. Um and sort of just working on understanding those keys and understanding the lines within those keys and how kind of it relates to our lives and how we kind of understand all of that. I'm going to share my screen and we can kind of go through a couple profiles. And feel free to share your profile if you want to as well, Maddie.
And you're talking about the gene key profile, yeah?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's going to look like these.
Yeah, perfect.
So hold on. Huh. I don't think this updated. Okay. I thought there was. Yeah, I updated on my phone the prompt. Um, so from my understanding, it was very similar. All of the lines, just going through 1 through 6, sort of taking that lens and putting it towards your radiance. The radiance for me, uh, like once you've gone through your life's work and through your evolution and how you face the challenges in your life, it seemed to be sort of just not necessarily a side effect, but just like a cause and effect of the evolution is your radiance, like how you radiate in life. One thing that I've been contemplating since I've read it is that uh, I might not necessarily be vibrating in my radiance yet in this life. Um, Something that like I've read and listened to my radiance key like a couple times, and mine is the 7.6. And I think it just needs more contemplation. I think I just need to spend more time thinking about that. Um, yeah, like I said, I've kind of read The Shadow, the Gift in the City and listened to it. And I don't feel like I've been able to tap into that frequency at any point. Like sometimes in my life, I've felt it. I was talking to Katie this morning about how it connects in human design and how sometimes we need the full channel in order for it to be kind of fully activated. And I just want to kind of go through what she means by channels real quick. So this is my human design chart. And as you can see, there's these different energy centers, all of these. So these are in human design, basically their chakra system. So it's like a 9 point chakra system as opposed to 7. So there's an extra one in here, and there's an extra two. There's like a what's called ego, so self, which is like not it's not the heart. There's the heart, and then the self, and then there's also the spleen. Um, and so like it's a little different. But basically, what I mean by channels, as you can see right here where my mouse is, it says 7. So I have that activated, but I don't have the 31, so I don't have a full channel. So these, oh, hold on, let me add Peter back in. So from my understanding, this means that sometimes these channels create like certain like activations of frequencies, allowing you to tap into those gifts with somebody else. So there's like a lot of pairings and a lot of language to go with all of these channels that I don't fully understand yet, but I'm learning. So what Katie was telling me is that 7 and 31 is sort of there's like the 31's the leader, and the 7 is sort of like the leader behind the leader, offering guidance, like sort of like the true leader, and the 31's more of the voice. Oh, Kara's joining today too. We've got a full house, so maybe she can help speak on this as well. Basically, uh, I don't think there's been any time in my life, and I can reflect on this like in the past and think about it, where I've felt my 7, my need to want to share my gift of guidance, but no one to really accept that. And I know that like I can't push for it and I have to wait for it to come to me, but I don't feel like I've had the opportunity to tap into that gift of guidance. I know I've like wanted to, and like in a lot of the situations and circles I've been in, I've always felt like I kind of know the right thing to say or like want them to say certain things or whatever, whoever it is. Even if it's like a teacher in a classroom, I can see things and understand things from that perspective. So it's me like wanting to kind of guide the group in a certain direction and not really having the voice or the channel activated for it. Um, so that's sort of my contemplation on my radiance and my life and a lot of those things. But I'd love to hear from you guys if you have had any thoughts about it over the past week or so, or if you've, yeah, if you want to tap in or talk, you guys are more than welcome to. If not, I can keep talking, or Katie can mention something.
Mhm.
Looks like Peter's a little frozen.
I'm
Um,
still, I'm still, trying to understand the construction of all of these and how they work. So I've really just been dabbling at looking at the different numbers where they sit and trying to interpret the words. And then the 64 doors archetype website that kind of puts it in an interesting perspective where it's a little bit, for me, easier to understand. I was curious how those work. So like I'm reading something in the Gene Keys about, let's say this, what you're showing here. And then I take that same number and I look at it at the 64 doors. I mean, there are a lot of similarities. Are they pretty much the same when it comes to like interpreting them? They're just kind of written in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. It's the archetype. So it's like Jungian psychology. It's
Mhm.
um, where they put an archetype to kind of help you connect with it on like a deeper level within your psyche.
Perfect. I have the 50th gene key, which I I was reading it in this book.
mhm.
Um, and the shadow is corruption, the gift is equilibrium, and the city is harmony. And they talk about like the cosmic order, which I find really interesting because only in recent years have I really felt like I can put into words what I felt, but I have always felt my need for keeping harmony in certain places and kind of being able to pick up on what somebody might need to make them feel that way. And when I read the archetype for the 64 doors, it talked about the maestro, which was really interesting because I love music, and it talked about kind of anchoring to that. And one of the points, and I just want to read it. It talks about what balance and harmony looks like, and I can feel out of balance when I feel like someone is maybe not included or maybe feels like they can't share something in a group. And so that's just, I've been thinking about that a lot. It just resonated with me in terms of just being in a community and really feeling like you want to help radiate someone else, bring out somebody else's radiance. So I'd say that's what I've been contemplating on.
Hmm. That's so beautiful. You're like really tapping into that gift. Yes. I can see that so much in you too. You just like have that energy of harmony. Like,
It was interesting how it talked about like the music, because I am picking up piano lessons again. I had taken piano for a little bit when I was younger, was classically trained, which is more like muscle memory, and not really understanding the construction of chords and being able to just go onto a piano and really play whatever you feel. And my friend, actually Nikhil Coleman, do you know Nikhil?
Yep.
He plays piano and he gave me the contact of his piano teacher, and just the way he describes how he teaches theory, I'm really excited because I just want to be able to hopefully just like be on a piano and really just play how I feel. And so I'm hoping to like use that as a way to, I don't know, get some of this feeling out. So anyways, Maestro hit hard.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Hmm. Kara, do you have anything to add about the 50? Because I know, like, from maybe from like a human design perspective, because we've talked about the 50 so many times, and it's really such a beautiful key, and it's in the sacral, right? In the body graph.
Yes, I believe so. I think it's the 2750 is the channel of preservation.
Okay, yes, so it's
And
actually in the spleen.
yeah, it's in the spleen. I had to think about the connection because the 27's in the sacral. And so it's this the connection of the spleen to the sacral. But
So
50 in human design is called the gate of values. So what you're saying, like it kind of if I'm like transmitting it the right way, it's really about like preserving the collective or the tribe. And I guess like what I'm going to say is like the collective and the tribe are different in the sense that when you have tribal values like exclude people, right? Like you can exclude someone based on color, based on race, based on sexuality. And so there's like this level of exclusion also within the tribe and within the collective. And so I feel like the 50 is like harmonizing that connection where like you're preserving. And so even what you're saying about like caring about maybe the people that are not as cared about in the tribe, like maybe the people that are the outliers who are like closer to the outside, and you sort of sensing that that needs to be part of the harmony of like being in a group. I have the 52, so I think I sense that like whenever I'm in a group, I can kind of sense if someone's not aligned with like what's being spoken about, or like if someone just doesn't feel in harmony with the group itself. I can kind of sense that. But I also have sort of stepped away from like trying to fix things. Like I think in the past I would have been in a group and tried to like insert myself and like make the person feel better or create the harmony. Um, and I think there is something to that with the 50. Like it definitely is the maestro where it's creating that harmony with others. Um, but two, like I'm gonna go back and read it because when you think about the frequency band of corruption, um, I don't have a good like understanding right now of like what corruption means. Like I'm curious if my wanting to act is part of the corruption, if that makes sense, or like wanting to fix. That's just how I personally like experience it with the 50. But it is really a beautiful energy, and I can relate to it in the sense that my partner has the full channel. And so for me, I only have the 50. So he's really here to preserve. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm as good of a caregiver as him because I don't have that full channel. And it's almost like me feeling this level of inadequacy that I don't have the gate of caring.
Which is
And so, yeah, just kind of sharing my own personal experience with it.
mm,
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And I think I would agree with you when it comes to fixing. Just because one, do you know if you have the right, I don't know, is your mind telling you something? Are you really seeing the situation in the right way? But maybe what I'm hearing is being a little bit more in tune to just the energy and understanding it and really like being the observer to understand. So that way, I guess you can make more decisions maybe in the moment when it really does matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but more impactful, I'd say. Um, but I hear that's a really interesting way to view it, and that's helpful. So thank you.
you nailed it though, Madison, because like um it's in the spleen. So that's connected to intuition. So it's always responding in the moment. And sorry, I called you Madison, Maddie. I'm like looking at your name. So
Either one.
but yeah, so it's actually like the gift of being able to respond to the present moment, to what is needed, that will bring more equilibrium and harmony to whatever any groups that you're a part of. Like just your energy being in a group, whether you speak anything or not, your energy, like what's in your aura, is going to bring more harmony and balance to a group, like naturally. And you'll intuitively know just by being in a group. Like you could, like you're saying, you can probably sense when someone's feeling a little bit off or maybe a little bit excluded, or like, and you're sensing that, and you're like in your mind, you're probably working out ways to like, oh, how can I make it so everyone's feeling better? And like, that's, I feel like kind of what you do at work, right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah, that is part of my job. Yeah. Employee experience and making sure, you know, the person feels, we focus on like diversity, equity, inclusion, and well-being and things like that. And then I think of the other side of it where, you know, I do feel like there's a sense of order that I sometimes need to keep. Like, and I'm just going to use this story as an example. I was in a CVS and I just hear this woman speaking to the person that worked there so rudely, and just like you can tell it's just one of those people. And I'm in the the aisle next to it, like ready to step in and say something if I really needed to. And I feel like sometimes that can just eat at me, like if I don't say anything. But I always find, even if it's just like standing up for somebody that's just like being like super rude, because I do think there is an order in that way that is okay to keep. Of course, it's okay to, I don't know, say like turn the other cheek and all that. But I do think there's purpose in some moments to really, I don't want to use the word teach, but be impactful in a kind and nice way, but like a strong way. I definitely have that feeling. And sometimes I can get a little like, I'll have to like, I don't know, tell my sister, like, I almost like, you know, did this today, but I never act on it, but I really want to sometimes. I think that's a little bit hard to control.
yeah. So trust that though, because it's in the spleen. It's, if you feel that, like you can trust it. If you feel like you need to say something, it's all about boundaries, the 50. It's
Right.
like very like centered around this concept of creating boundaries. It's like the 50 knows what boundaries need to be placed. And when you feel that a boundary needs to be placed,
Mhm.
you can trust that. You should trust that, because like that's your first, that's your radiance, but like that is correct for you. So like if you're feeling that and you're like, oh, I don't know if I should say it because like, you know, I don't want to like step on
Yeah.
any toes or whatever, but like that's actually correct for you.
Okay.
I would say.
I'll
Yeah.
listen to it. I'll listen to it more.
Yeah, like really embodying your radiance. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Hmm.
I'll give the floor to somebody else.
Michelle, hi.
Hi, Katie. What's
How
up?
are you?
Good, good. Hi, Maddie and Kara. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, very nice. Kara always sharing the good stuff. And we missed you last week, Katie, but that's okay. Did you have a good time, good training at work?
Yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah,
Train. Like that was
I
good.
could hear you said that. Yeah, with a little sigh. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
ah, you know, the keys are more fun, that's for sure, though.
Yes.
Oh man, yeah, I was telling Kalman last week how I went on vacation now and I ended up catching up with everything and reading the whole book. I mean, I read the whole book, but of course there are parts that I have to go back and understand a lot better. But I had a nice 4 hours airplane to Michigan, so I just devour all the gene keys and I was just like on it. So it was pretty cool because I went to nature too, and nature always gives you the insights that you need, it just
Hmm.
the air and everything else. But yeah, I've been contemplating a lot and with just so many things that I'm kind of lost in like what I want to talk about because there's just so many. I guess, well, I'll go to my radiance, right? My radiance is I have forgetting, mindfulness, and revelation. So it's kind of intense. Everything's pretty intense on the keys, on the spheres, actually, for everyone, right? I did read The Shadow of Forgetting, and that's a tough one because it speaks about the only thing we bring from our incarnation, it's memories. We're not talking about the memories that we can remember daily. It's the memories that has happened before I was born and it's imprinted in my body or my genes that I don't have access to just yet. And it talks about, what is it? Talks about the is it, let me see the name. It's called Is this San Harris or San Harris or something that before?
Yes.
What is it called?
Sanskaras.
Yeah, heresy.
Yeah.
Yes, it talks about I guess the other religions that they can tap to that, right? The Taoism and the Egyptians and stuff, but that one is a little bit tough for me to understand fully. But I definitely feel more comfortable with the gift of the shadow, which is mindfulness. Just because the whole breathing journey and me started to meditate for the past 3 months and sitting with myself. So I can tell that the gift of revelation, I'm sorry, the mindfulness, I can see definitely some of the stuff happening. It talks a lot about intuition and never being wrong about my intuition about other people as well. And I definitely felt that a lot since like growing up. But let's see, mindfulness and revelation. Yeah, I think I explained to you guys maybe a few weeks ago how I was having that moment that kind of I felt that rush coming through my body and I was just started to cry and feel like very emotional, not knowing where it was coming from. And I guess like maybe some of the shadow that I release and that understanding that there's a light in the DNA that it can actually be unlocked and rush through your whole body. It's just kind of hard to understand because if you tell anybody that, they're like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, are you crazy? But I did feel that somehow I unlocked some of that light through mindfulness and
Mm.
meditation and a lot of silence. It's now when I'm contemplating, it's like a combination of visualization, and every time I'm not like thinking, right? So I imagine something and I can just see myself doing it, and I create this whole imagination and story, and I can really sit through it like I'm watching a movie in my head, and I'm like enjoying feeding from it, like, oh, that would be so cool on this app, oh then, and it's just more clarity, like it feels like my brain really expanded with the imagination and contemplating things that I guess manifesting. They're all connected, like visualization, manifestation, contemplation. Are they like kind of on the same?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
would say. Yeah. So
I'm
I
just one.
I was just thinking about like this pathway of breakthrough, and I thought about you and the story that you told about how you had that breakthrough when you were with
Yes,
your partner, and like yeah, and like that's kind of like that's the releasing of energy, like that is the breakthrough when all of a sudden like a little bit more light enters, and then you're just like sobbing or laughing or whatever you're doing, and it's just like
yeah.
and then you're having this revelation, which is your radiance.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's the pathway of breakthrough. That's exactly what I was reading, and I can really relate to where he spoke about that feeling that how it can come all in and all in one, but it says that what is it? Yes, so some breakthroughs are experienced as so insights, right? So for example, breakthrough when a pattern of denial suddenly comes to an end. Definitely felt that a lot because it's like when something really clicks and the denial and accepting that and unlocking something different because it tells it to allow, accept, and embrace, right? And it feels like most people that really are in denial, not owning their own shit, they're gonna be stuck forever. And I guess my mindfulness, it says the death of the ego. That's basically my gift on the radiance, and I can totally see the death of the ego for the past, for sure, 2 years since I started detoxing and doing breathing at the same time. It was just like pretty intense in my body, and just really going back and accepting why why I did the things I did, that I wasn't right, but I needed to do it to be where I'm at. I spoke about that a lot before even the Gene Keys, not knowing what that really meant, because it was more just intuition. But so it says here, other breakthroughs seem purely emotional. It can lead to intense emotional states and feelings, often accompanied by tears. Yeah, and so I did definitely felt that like 3 weeks ago. And yeah, I think the meditation, remember the meditation came without me knowing that I was gonna join the club, you know. So yeah, I can see a lot of things happening for sure. And I also read a little bit because of my programming partner. Sorry, sometimes in Portuguese everything is reversed. So
Yeah.
you know, like in Spanish, right? Sometimes I speak like completely reverse in English, even though I've been here for like 20 years. I'm like,
Yeah, no worries.
the program partner is the same, right? I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. I got what you meant.
Yeah. So the 19, I definitely look at that on my hologenetic profile, just on the little messages that come on the 4 prime gifts, right? And the purpose being able to help someone that's really, really struggling, like a lot. And it says codependence, sensitivity, and sacrifice. So I mentioned to Kalma last week too that I always felt like I gave way too much because I'm so sensitive and I care for others so much. Like sometimes I am in the parking lot, like she said, she went to CVS, you know, I would be probably that person that would be like, why are you talking to them like this? You know, like I just feel sometimes I can control how I want to help others, but I ended up giving too much for them and not enough for me. Because I also discover I'm a wild dog on my life's work and care. But yeah, so this past 2.5 years, I had to really balance my energy of having enough to recalibrate and recharge myself
Mhm.
and start saying no to people. And I'm not gonna save the world and help everybody, even though I want that. But that's like really detrimental to my well-being, and I have nothing left at the end of the day. So really working on balancing the energies and
Nice.
just doing what I can. And at the end of the day, I have to recharge. So otherwise, I'm out of harmony.
So I
I don't
just,
know if that
yeah,
makes sense, but
sorry, and then you can
Yeah,
talk.
yeah.
So can you go to the human design chart really quick?
Yeah, just any.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So the 19 is in the root center.
So wait, hold on.
The 19 on the bottom is
Yeah.
in the root center. And so the root center is a pressure center. So it's like this pressure to act. So what you're saying, it actually makes a lot of sense. It's like you feel this like drive to help everyone, right? Like you if you could help everyone, you would. It's like this drive in you. But yeah, like the wisdom comes from knowing like who you can help and who you can't. And like, you know, you can't, also recognizing that like you have to fill your own cup as well in order to be able to help others. Which it's like the shadow of codependency. It's like if you become too enmeshed in the other, then like you lose your sense of self and you end up kind of hurting yourself in the long run.
mm,
Yeah, so you have to kind of move into independence, which is more of the gift, but then the city ultimately is the ultimate sacrifice, is recognizing that we actually are all one. Like you completely lose your entire sense of self in that city. But yeah, I just trying to like weave the human design and the gene keys just so you can kind of understand, because gene keys is the sister to human design. Human design's the brother, gene keys is the sister. So
Yeah, I also just wanted to add because Katie and I listened to the 19 this past week, and then I also wanted to talk about kind of the lines when it comes to radiance. So we were talking about codependence and how like these are programming partners, right? The 19 and the 33, and how like forgetting ourselves and forgetting where we come from leads to codependence, and codependence leads again to us forgetting. So we're trapped in this cycle of codependence and forgetting who we are internally, forgetting within who, like,
That we're divine.
yeah, that we are divine, and that we don't need to depend on somebody else to help us remember, and that we just need to search inside ourselves to find the answers for actually who we are. And it's through that mindfulness, through that like meditation that you've been doing, and through that just bringing yourselves into yourself, which is actually closer towards the one of the radiance, like really just going inwards to find yourself. You find that sensitivity and that mindfulness. You find that ability to go in, find that mindfulness, and then bring it out into the world and into your experiences. And that's what like kind of the 3 is really about. Like if you have a 1-3 profile, your 3 and your radiance is bringing that radiance into your experiences. You're good with travel. You're able to radiate
Where you
mindfulness
learn through your experiences. You learn about the gift through the experiences that you have.
And another thing I that stood out to me when I read the 3 is that you're not necessarily attached to kind of the experience. You're there to be mindful during the experience and experience the experience and have a good time doing it, but you're not necessarily attached to it completely. You're not like, oh, this is the end all be all of all experiences. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do after this, or like whatever it is, it's like you're able to like just be fluid in that space and then continue on your path and find another experience and continue to find your experiences.
Yeah. And it's connected to the blood, which is fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that tells you a lot.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that because we actually there's a bunch of 1-3 profiles in this chat, I think.
What is Maddie?
Maddie's a
1-3.
1-3 as well. Yeah. So maybe you can relate to that as well, Maddie. Like kind of that through your experiences, you're able to tap into that harmony. Or you can just see harmony in your experiences.
Or corruption.
Or corruption, yeah.
Kara, what is your radiance?
My radiance is actually the 55, and I definitely struggle with that being my radiance because it's freedom. And I don't know how many of us like feel free, but for me, sometimes I feel free and sometimes I don't. I think usually it's because I'm a manifesting generator too. So my strategy in human design is to inform and respond. But usually if I feel like me informing is going to like create any sort of turbulence for me, like with the person having an emotional reaction, I'll shy away from informing before I act, which isn't really great. But it's almost like I'm afraid of the solar plexus. Like I'm afraid to trigger something in the other, like in being in freedom. And like I guess I could share that a little bit. Like I have a very unconventional relationship. Like I've been in a partnership with my boyfriend for like 16 years and we're not married, and we both give each other like a lot of space and a lot of autonomy. We travel separately, like we have separate lives. And I think sometimes when I go away for like long periods of time, people kind of are like, oh, I can't believe you did that. Like, I can't believe your partner let you do that. Like, kind of like all of this wording around me being my own person and like really being my own being and truly having that sense of freedom where like I can act and do and be as I want to be, regardless of like the world around me. And so I definitely struggle with my radiance from that perspective. I think the gift and the city are the same. The gift and the city are both freedom. And the shadow is victimization. So like in the shadow, like you're a victim of others, right? Like you're literally a victim. Like you feel like you're a victim of life, you're a victim of circumstance, like, and so I've probably been on a 3-year journey to really experience and express that radiance of freedom. but it's one of those things where it truly does feel like it's like what keeps me healthy. Like, I don't think if I had that level of freedom in my relationship and even in my friendships, like, I don't think that they would endure, if that makes sense. Because it's literally what keeps you healthy. So, like, for if whatever key your radiance is in, like, it's speaking to and working with like the health of your overall system. So, like, I
Mm.
guess for you, Michelle, like, you're rationalizing to really feel healthy, like to feel whole and good in your body. And for me, it's like this gift of freedom. And so for me to feel good, I have to feel really free. Um, and so, yeah, that's my radiance, and that's really what I can share on it. But Coleman, I did want to say, like,
Yeah.
you were speaking on the 7, and yesterday I was gonna post a comment about the 7 and the 31 because I know Katie has the 31, but I really appreciate you having the 7 because I also have the 7 in my MC, and I really can relate because
Can you, what's the MC?
the MC is my midheaven.
Okay.
So in my larger astronatal chart, it's kind of how I show up professionally. Like, I show up professionally as a guide. But what really you're saying that makes me feel like you truly have the direction, because that's what the G Center is actually about. The G Center, not only does it provide direction for you, and that's where the 7 is, it's in the G Center.
Hmm.
It's providing direction for you, but it's also providing direction for others. But the beautiful thing about the 7 that I really see in you that's so powerful, that maybe a lot of people don't appreciate about you because they don't see the wisdom in it, is the 7 is really about directing people to be tapped into themselves and not to be tapped into a guru. So you were actually expressing that just a few minutes ago when you were telling Michelle, like, you weren't even saying it that way, but you were literally telling her, like, be tapped into yourself, be tapped into your own tuition. And so many people today, like, they want to take information from outside themselves. And that's not to say that you can't be discerning and you can't have a teacher and you can't learn something new, or even that you
Yeah,
can't follow a guru. But
totally.
it's really at the end of the day about being tapped into your own wisdom and magic. Just because something works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Your profile and all your different activations really are the magic of your own energy. So even for me, like, I'm a 4/6 profile. So I have a community line, so I don't, like, from a sales point of view, like, I don't even really believe in sales, because when I'm like doing business with people, it's very authentic, and it's from this place of like truly wanting to connect from the heart and having like a real connection with people. And I think I really feel that from you, Common. Like, I feel the direction of your 7 and you really guiding people to be tapped into themselves and not to be tapped into something outside of themselves. And it just feels really beautiful and like profound that you have this group of people who you're really directing with this energy of the 7, that's in a way guiding people to be tapped into their own intuition and to their own magic. And that is what the 7 does. It's like, it's saying to others, I have the direction, but this is my direction. And the direction is going your own way and like being your own authentic voice and being tapped into yourself. And I just can relate to that. And it's beautiful to hear you speak it, because I know when I go, sometimes when I'm in other spaces, it's triggering for me when I feel like people are being guided to be tapped into something outside of themselves.
Hmm.
Because like all of your real magic comes from you being you, right? Like, you being like the full true expression of yourself. So I just wanted to share that with you because you were literally speaking it. And I know it's a projected energy, so like it does need to be invited, but it's really beautiful how you have this space and you are giving people the option to invite you in to guide. And you're even guiding by like offering your own reflections on how you're tapping into you, how you're like, tapped into yourself and how that's working for you. So it's kind of profound to like watch it and to also have the energy, but to see you express it and to feel like what it feels like in my body to have the 7. And then like, I kind of feel like this resonance with you the way that you share it, because you are sharing the direction, but you're sharing it in like this really incredible way that's really about having people be aligned to themselves. And that I think is the direction into the future.
It,
And it's interesting too, because Katie has the 31, so that creates that whole channel where you have the voice and then it has the direction too. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, and you keep saying it's all within. I mentioned to Michelle and Peter last week that I started to notice, just listening to the keys, that they use a lot of terminology that starts with literally the word in. So it's always like within, go within, interdependent, innocence, innovation, understanding, like all of these in words that just like go within. And it's funny because I actually listened to My Purpose this morning, which is the programming partner of Radiance, and it was talking about empathy. And empathy, EM, they said EM is actually like in Latin, or like at the very center level of the word, it means in. It's like listening within. Yeah. Empathy is the way they talked about it wasn't there. There's been actually, they mentioned in the audio that it can be so disconnected from what we actually think it is. Like people think sympathy is empathy, but there's like, people need to understand that those two are completely separate, and that empathy actually, like, there's a deeper understanding to it. I won't be able to like fully transcribe it, but I definitely recommend listening to that one, because it is, the way they talk about it, it sort of transcends sympathy. Yeah, it's not even close to sympathy. Sympathy's,
it's like a higher octave, I would say.
Well, sympathy is like you feel bad for the person, where for me, empathy is more like I can really relate to you, and like I'm sensing your feelings, and I don't feel like you're a victim, but like I really sense this energy of understanding. An understanding is what it feels like, more than like, and I feel bad for you. It's like an I understand.
It they talked about it as the key of like listening, like fully listening.
Which is what I was gonna say, is why the 7 and the 13, like why the 7 is such a good leader if it's in its centered and in its gift, is because the other side of the coin is the listener. You can only help guide people if you're guiding people based on your own ego and the direction you think they should be going, then you're not actually being a leader. You're guiding them towards your own ego. If you actually are listening to someone and you're hearing what they really truly are saying and what they need, and then you help them, guide them back to their own center. And that's the difference between the 31 and the 41. Is 31 is the voice, because the 41 is tapped into the future, has this gift of being able to anticipate the future. And that's what makes the 31 a good leader, is because it's like, it's feeling into what's coming. And so it can speak about like, hey guys, like this is what's going to be happening in the future. You ought to like start to align yourself to this energy, because this is what's coming. Whereas the 7 and 13 is like, I'm listening to you so I can guide you, because I hear what you are saying and I hear where you need to go.
I feel like I've been tapping into all of those lately after just hearing you talk about it. I have like a couple clients, and one of them I've been doing, I do breath work for one, I do movement for another. And like when I go into the session, I have like a basic idea of like kind of how I want to guide them for the day, just like what exercise or what body parts or what we're going to go over, how hard I'm going to push them. And then like I really do spend time like asking, how are you doing? Like, what are you feeling this week? What can we work on? And I'm like listening to them talk about like, oh, I have pain in my hip, or oh, like I didn't get enough sleep, or whatever it was. And then like I just like kind of let it come. I'm in that vibration of anticipation, like waiting for them to give me a signal so I can choose something that's going to help them, so I can give them something and guide them towards feeling better or feeling strength or whatever we're doing in the session. It's just kind of funny. I'm like piecing those things together. That's like when I'm in my zone, when I'm in my groove, I guess when I'm in my radiance. And it does make me feel good as well. I'm glad we touched upon the fact that the radiance is it, like when you're tapped into that, you are feeling healthy and vibrant, and it is your vitality. It's in essence, like when you're feeling that, you feel strong. You feel like you're not too in your head. Maybe you're in your body, you're in your solid foundations of your thinking. And we know that, based on a lot of different research in quantum energy, as well as like Joe Dispenza stuff, that like these vibrations, these specific vibrations allow us to actually feel physically better. We feel stronger. We
heal
feel
ourselves.
we are healing in that present moment, right? And it's I'm just like kind of piecing these things together now as I'm talking about it, but like the radiance tapping into that is really how you physically feel better, how you work towards healing, and you be healing in the moment is finding your radiance and finding your gifts within that, and then expressing them and working through them.
Hey, Kalman, yeah, I'd like to add something to that. It's
Yeah.
funny because I have been experiencing that too, maybe for the past, I'm not sure, like maybe 2 to 3 years, but well, the life's work, having the line one for my life's work and evolution, and like Karen mentioned of my life's work being, I know, the creator, line one, and having to be authentic. And it's okay to learn from other gurus and teachers, but I have to come up with my own ideas and be completely authentic from everybody else. And I can kind of feel that I've been towards that path. And along with my gift of invention of the evolution, it tapped into the same idea. I used to, I was a personal trainer for over 10 years in the corporation, right? 24-hour fitness and lifetime fitness. And I worked 5 years for both. And we learn how to, you have to create a program design based on their this and that, and always be ready for them. And probably in the first year I've followed that, but I stopped creating programs for that same reason, that I don't know how the person's feeling. That's not gonna match their workout or their training session. So I started to listen, right? Just like, how are you feeling at the moment? And how can I help you today to relieve any emotion or pain, or make you stronger physically, or just to get through your day feeling better? So I started just creating things outside of the box. Remember I mentioned about training too. I'm like, I guess the invention, the creativity, I was always like trying to be different. If everybody's going that way, I'm gonna go to the other way.
Yeah.
Tell me I cannot do something. I'm like, oh, let me show you that this is possible. Especially for injuries in sports, I'm like, oh, you're never gonna play soccer again. I'm like, okay, doctor, we'll see. Let me see what I can do with my body, how I can heal. But as far as the program design, it's like, okay, I listen to the person and I come up with anything at the moment. And I didn't struggle coming up with anything, actually, just not being prepared, but I was prepared for them at the moment, and things just started to flow. The same thing with myself. I used to follow a program design and work out 5 times a week, this, and that. And then now I just go with the flow. Like, even if I go to the gym, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do legs today, and I get there, I always start with my breath, my breathing training, and then my body just guides me. You know what? I'm not even thinking; it just happens. Following a program. I mean, come on, how boring is that? Because the program know how I really feel. Like, my intuition knows what I should be doing for the day. So I can definitely resonate with that, and a lot of what Kara said. And yeah, be authentic. Everything, you're the person that can create your whole life. I mean, you get ideas from everything else, but how do you funnel and make your own? It's what's really been happening. And it's kind of nice it's a good feeling to be authentic, not just be basic, I guess. Like, you don't have to do things because everybody's doing. Just do what you feel like doing. And another beautiful, I guess it's a quote that it's from Richard Rudd, I think. I'm not sure, but I read in the book that the hardest and the easiest thing in the world is to be you, right? And I contemplate on that so much that it just so true. It's so hard to be yourself, but it's so easy. It's crazy. And everybody struggle with that, being themselves. That's the most thing we struggle with, is just the pressure and program in society and so many things that people are lost and they just buried, their gut is buried, their intuition is just suffocated, and they just don't know how to listen to their voice within. What did you say?
I said,
Go.
would you say that they forget?
Yeah, getting, yeah, there you go. Yep. So there was a time of my life recently that I'm like, I think I mentioned to you guys too, I'm like, wow, when you're not feeling happy or fulfilled, and I'm like, brought it back to my childhood. I'm like, man, I just want to go back to how I used to be, to my roots, you know. And I grew up barefoot in nature, and I came here, and I have the shadow of addiction on my evolution. So work, and becoming a workaholic, which is also my reactive nature from my shadow, I think.
Okay.
That you can become a workaholic or a gambler, you know,
Mhm.
and to bury your own who you really are. Because I'm like, oh, I need to help people and I want to help everybody. So I'm taking all the clients and I'm work. So understanding that, yeah, going back to my roots, I'm like, wow, I want to go barefoot again. I want to spend more time in nature. I used to rollerblade a lot more and bike and walk, and I still love doing all that, but I kind of put a pause on that because at that time I needed to, I guess, work. So yeah, a lot of things are coming back to remembering who I really was when I was born. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny. It now makes total sense. I'm like, yeah, I don't understand the forgetting. I'm like, yeah, I do.
yeah.
Like, hello.
Mm.
Oh
I was
man.
thinking about how I can't remember if it was one of the podcasts um, that have been posted recently, but they were talking about how, like, really how collective consciousness and how consciousness will like come together and like raise their vibrations is by everybody being unique. And as that's like the paradox is like everybody has to be so different from each other that we create this oneness. It's like the as soon as everybody taps into their uniqueness, taps into their own radiance and their own vibration and energy, then we will start to elevate and we will start to become one and unify.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the individuation process in
Mm.
Jungian psychology.
I love that.
And
Yeah, just those concepts and the paradoxes within all of this, the gene keys. It's fun. It's fun once you like understand that and actually like feel it too. Um, yeah.
is Peter here?
He was, I
Right?
think. Oh, he
Am
is. Wait, where are you, Peter?
I-
Oh, hey, Peter.
Hey, I might have came back in as a guest. I don't know. It
No,
said something like, does it say Peter underneath my name? My
Yes.
boss.
Just can't
Okay. Wild. Yeah, I'm not sure how I ended up just shutting my phone off and then turning it back on. It seems like everything's fine now.
Mm.
But yeah. So Cars, nice to finally meet you. And Maddie, nice to meet you.
Yes, you too.
Oh no. Did I freeze?
No, no, you're
here.
good. You're good.
Okay. I'm like, okay, kind of paranoid there. Yeah, I'm doing good. So I think I've talked before about like how all these words that Richard Rudd uses in the book just resonate, and then I could read sometimes just like a paragraph, and then I just get in awe of what it feels like, and I just stop. So I realized with the radiance, well, let me back up. I'll just stop and like just kind of gaze and focus on my breath or something, and I'll kind of transport somewhere else briefly
Mm.
because it's that I feel that radiance of like just being. And I think on page 97 at the end of the book, I believe it's 97. It's about just being in your life's work. It says, that your whole thing about all of this gene keys is to remember just to be. And I've been coming back to that for a long time now, last few years, but again, I have words to go with it now. and like obviously a map, which is awesome. So in the Radiance, I'm 42, 42.6, which I understand whenever you're looking at the lines, I'm like, oh, am I supposed to start at 0.6? Like, no, it's just kind of like, that's what it's going to be like in the city. That's how I'm interpreting it. Like when you'll have all the 1 through 6, but that's what you'll be operating in there, balancing out the shadows and right. So let me see here. So within that, so many things to say that pop up while you guys are talking. So I mean, it was beautiful what Kara said about you, Common. It's totally true. And then that radiates outward to where we're all at right now, just together. You know, so so for me, it's the Radiance 42.6. It's all about letting go. And again, like just being. And I keep coming back to that. And I've been coming back to that. The expectation, and I believe I made a little like video to myself, like a note-taking video, random talking video. We'll see if I can find that and then share that with you guys. I was driving and I realized like I've always spent a lot of energy in the expectation based in the realm of what people told me, holding them accountable. But then I have to keep track of that on my last interaction with them, whether it was good or bad. Like if they liked something or said something complimentary, or their energy was off and something triggered in me. And then in the end, if they actually said something that created some kind of commitment to me, I would like hold on to that. I do hold on. That's my part of my challenge. I hold on to that, and then I like, well, you said, but I keep that internal, right? And it just keeps cycling through. But celebration and detachment leads to nurture in line 6. So 42 for me overall is what keeps me healthy. Like, okay, well, I know the times when I've been in that realm, and it's like Michelle said, you just go in and you focus on what it feels like and what you want to do for your workout that day, right, Michelle? I do that with the bike riding. I just point the bike and go. I'll start out anywhere from half the time nasal breathing of the entire ride, or 100%. And that's been my constant for the last couple months. And I might just nasal breathe the whole time and just pedal. And other times I'm like, okay, halfway through a ride, I feel really good, I'm just gonna go. So it's added to the infinite routes thing, Coleman. The whole smoothing it out, going through the rough spots. It's really tying into this nurture, which is the dream I've always had. And that's what it says here on the 87
about that.
A dream has grown within you since you were young. A dream requires continual nurturing. So bouncing around here a little bit, I wrote down on the divine will and 40.1. And if I understand it right, I know that they oppose the gene keys oppose each other, and that's how they're connected. They're not always like 41 and 42 or 52 and 53. It's not always like that.
No. Yeah, exactly.
So maybe I'm not pronouncing this right, but the timeless art of doing nothing, woo-wee. It's W-U-W-I. How do you say it?
It's Wei Wu. It's in traditional Chinese medicine. It's like the act of non-doing, and like it's just associated with beingness.
Almost.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So there's What's that?
Kind of like Zen, the
Yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah. So when I do nothing, I get highly emotional, clearing a path for truth through the contemplation, like that, and like what we were talking about earlier with empathy ties into that, and then that's my cycle. So it seems like whenever I'm just quiet and doing nothing, that's when I get back to the self, you know. And I'll give you an example of things I was doing. I didn't know I was doing that. Kind of maybe on a deeper level. I have 4 or 5 pictures of myself all through different ages of when I was young. I was like, oh, those are the pictures that I like. It just felt like me. So I've had these pictures near my bed and I kind of rotate them out, put one in front of the other. It feels like that. But it was out, all these pictures are when I was just doing just me, like doing nothing, doing just being, from a school picture to this picture of me sitting on the log at the beach next to a basket of food and whatnot. And the reason why I like that picture is because I remember that day I was like, we had just sat down. My memory serves me as that we just sat down and it was like settled and it was like, this is perfect. I'm right at the beach. It's just like me. I think my mom was there. Yeah, me and my mom. I think we're waiting for my sister and my dad to show up later that day down at it was in Cannon Beach. And then it felt like my memory serves me, that all of a sudden we had to go like back to the cabin, or I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect, right? It's just sit. Let's just like, so that's how this stuff is connecting to me. So when I was reading the Just Be on page 97, and it was like about just somewhere in the just before the final word, about just being, I totally like just lay back and went, wow. And I don't know if it happens to you guys, but it kind of hits you in that not an overwhelming way, but a really like peaceful way.
Mm-hmm.
And like my ceiling kind of just melted into me, and I was like, well, this is happening right now. And then instead of stopping it or getting up to write about it, it's like just like laid there, and that might have been only like 2 minutes or something like that before it kind of started fading out back to this realm. And so those are the little things I've been going on, and just always coming back to just being, even if I'm a little confused on what the lines mean or where I'm at, or I forgot what I read earlier and have to go back. It's just kind of like, that's what it is. It's like there's all these little cool things that are happening, even in this whole world of and then this realm, the stressors and it's like, well, as long as I keep my dream alive and nurture myself, it's like I'm kind of down for maybe some of the stuff that's going to come up in my life that's not so good right now, but that's the challenge. So yeah, it's very powerful stuff. This is a great group, so I appreciate everybody a lot, just like letting it all hang out there, like Michelle did last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just wait
Like
till
in
we
the
get
bowl.
sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah,
I was gonna say
I'll
just
stop
wait
there.
till we get into the Venus sequence.
Yeah, yeah.
But it'll
So
be
like,
yeah.
go ahead, but I'll stop.
I was just gonna say it's gonna be good. I'm excited for it too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll mention something too. Because I also have a line 6. You have the 4-6, I have the 3-6. Uh, it was talking about how like there's a dream that you have like when you're a kid, and it like evolves and mutates throughout your whole life, but it's still kind of always there. And I feel like I've always had that. I just wanted to share that. I feel like I feel like everybody might have that too, because we all have access to all of the lines.
Yeah.
But in a way that it like connects to my my chart, my profile, I always feel like I never, and this is like the leader and the listener and the speaker and everything. I always feel like I wanted to help guide something and help lead something on a bigger scale, but I didn't necessarily like. I'm okay not being the leader. I didn't like, even as a kid, like it's not that I was like afraid of public speaking. You know, every kid doesn't really like public speaking, but like I got used to that pretty quickly, even like as I practiced it. But I'd rather I'd rather advise. I'd rather help people through that lens. I know like I don't need to be the leader. Like I'm not, even though like I could make a great leader if given the opportunity. Uh, I just don't have some of those necessarily traits, or like I don't know. I just feel like I've always wanted to create something larger and be part of something bigger than myself,
Mhm.
and have like in a way not necessarily control, but good influence over how the group or the society or the community operates, like the way it flows and creates that harmony and that resonance, and the way that things combine to make a quality sound together. uh, I've been thinking about just like all the skills I've had growing up, even as a kid, and just the way I've been able to express myself and the way I've been able to connect with so many people and understand them. And going through the like talking a little bit about the human design like lens, I am a reflector, and that means I take on and understand a lot of people's energies. I sample energies. And it's my ability that to sample energies that allows me to like understand kind of society or communities at that like at it like a different perspective. uh and I feel like I've had like I could offer advice to allow things to flow, to allow things to work in a way that can create something greater. uh and so that's like, especially since I started kind of waking up and started looking at the world in different ways, and really like really allowing myself to listen to everything. uh I like keep getting deeper and deeper into that feeling of wanting to create something bigger and wanting to be a part of it. So I just, now I'm thinking it's my job to just continue to nurture those feelings, to nurture that, uh, just that vibration, and do the things that allow me to like give guidance, because that's how I'm going to live in vitality. That's how I'm going to live in health, is by offering guidance to the whole world in whatever capacity I can build it at. And that's why I love networking. I love sampling. I love connecting with so many different people. And I want to continue to do so. I want to continue to create containers and groups, and allow people to share their own stories, so I can, I don't know, maybe selfishly sample everyone, so I can better reflect it, or so I can better understand humanity, and just like be able to share things. So that's kind of where I wanted to at least share my perspective and what I've been thinking about, even just during this call. If you guys have anything else to add, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, we'll wrap it up within the next 10 or 15 minutes. But if you guys want to keep talking just a little longer or share anything, happy to hear.
I'd like to share one thing just as maybe an anecdote for everyone, because I can really relate to some of the things that are being shared too. Like even what Peter was saying, where like you'll read something and then you're like, you'll have like a memory of it, but you're like, wait, did I read that? Like, is that what that said? Like, you know, you're like, is this me? Is this key? Like, is this other key? But I'm kind of getting to this place from literally like regurgitating the same information so many times, and like even what Colin's saying about this word of inward, go inward, all these inwards. I was thinking it's really interesting, like some of these, the I Ching, these 64 hexagrams, they're teaching us so much, and like you can look at it from a big picture point of view. And I literally just got this like revelation, like truly while we were on this call. And it's Michelle, it's like your and Commons magic coming together. And what Peter said, like literally got me there, because when we think about it, the 25 gene key is acceptance, right? It's about acceptance and universal love. And it's in the ego center. And so a lot of times, like when we're not able to accept ourselves and we're not able to fully express, we don't feel that like love and like that energy flowing. And I'm sort of speaking to that like the gene keys are like this really elaborate way to sort of understand all of these programs that we're running subconsciously or consciously. We're not allowing ourselves to be ourselves. And then even what Peter was saying about the 42 about being detachment, I use that gene key so much. Like as soon as I feel like I have expectations for someone, I'm like, you know what? I need to let go of me having this need for this person to show up in a particular way for me to be happy with the outcome. And I just need to surrender to the experience. And like, there's so many of these words that have to do with like the keys and the channels, but really it's like teaching you this wisdom that gets put in the body, but it's happening very subconsciously, like through these words of like constantly telling you, like, go inward, be in your own energy, accept yourself, accept what's happening, even if you don't like it. Like, that was a revelation for me like 2 weeks ago, like maybe even a month ago. My ceiling was leaking at like my new house that I moved into. And I was like in such resistance to the ceiling leaking. I just kept saying like, no, this can't be happening. Like, this can't be happening. And I was like, oh shit, like you're in resistance. Like you're not in harmony. Like you're like, this is life. And you can't control the fact that there's water coming through your ceiling during the Pisces moon, but like you got to deal with it, you know? And like, it was just so literally had this revelation. It's like, holy shit, for a week I've been like resisting the water coming through my roof, like thinking that like me not accepting it was somehow going to make it go away. And so the gene keys just have this like really like weird way of getting into your subconscious and like basically being like, no, like, remember, this is acceptance. Like, this is you accepting yourself. This is you accepting the problem that life is dealing you, and you don't have control. You don't have the shadow of the 21. Like, you're never really in control. Like, life is always telling its own story and leading you, and like be in harmony with what's happening, even if you don't like it. Like, that's kind of like what's really been, which is the 50 that we were talking about too. It's like, don't be in such resistance to life, like even the difficult parts of it. And I have the 41 and I know Katie does too. So the 41 is decrease. And like for the longest time, I was like, oh, like it's about having like limited resources too. And I was like, shit, like, why do I have to have this decrease? Like, can I be the 42? Like, can I be increased? Like, can I just be increasing? And then I was like, I had this other revelation where I was like, shit, you can't increase if you don't decrease. Like, even right now, like my bank account is not as big as it was last year, but I'm like more looking at it like, okay, shit, like I'm in a decrease. So like increase is coming. Like, and that's the 41 anticipation. Like I'm anticipating something good as opposed to like feeling the decrease of like, I don't have what I need. So just kind of sharing like how in a roundabout way, like how some of these keys like really have revelations for me. And I don't even know when they're going to come. Like that 25 just hit me on this call and I was like, oh shit, what's acceptance? I was like, oh, that's universal love. That's the 25. But it's like really like, and then it being in the ego, like it's about accepting yourself. And like to me, that feels like the gene keys, that's the real magic. It's like allowing you to accept yourself for who you are, to see yourself, not through this lens of how other people see you or what the world's told you you need to be, but really allowing you to just anchor into your own energy and to feel comfortable, and then to put yourself around people who can honor that for you and for themselves is like really, really beautiful. And so that's why like I show up in this space too, because it's encouraging all of these really beautiful things. And I think it's more powerful than I even realized. Like every day it's really kind of coming into me like how truly powerful this system is. And I've worked in a lot of esoteric, like I've read things that like I could probably never make sense of and given my mind so many questions like, why are we here? All these things. But Gene Keys has really like let me rest into myself, and it's really allowed me to accept others too. When I see someone's chart, even someone that like maybe irritates me a little bit, like something they do, I'm like, oh shit, like they have this key, like no wonder. Like, so
Mhm.
it's kind of funny how like it allows you to see yourself, but it allows you to like forgive and accept and surrender and like move beyond, you know, like and to detach and not have those expectations always for the other of how you think things should go and be attached to an outcome. So Peter, what you were saying too, like that 42 is really beautiful because it's all about detachment. And I was just saying like that's such a powerful key for me, even though it's not in my activation sequence. Like as soon as I have expectations for people, I go right to the 42 of like, let me detach from putting all these expectations on this person or on the situation or on the outcome. So yeah, that's all I had to share, but hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. It was amazing.
Yeah, this-
Was I think Peter's.
He's lagging a little.
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, right on.
Oh, that was great. That was great. Thank you. Um, I'd like to add something real quick. I mean, love everything that Sarah said. I mean, when someone starts speaking, you can really feel things that we haven't felt, and you get revelations through this cause as well. I think Common, yeah, I can see a lot what Kara was saying about Common, about being the provider and being the catalyst for us to find who we really are, which is great. I have this, the 30 shadow forgetting now is making more sense than it did 2 nights ago for me.
Yeah.
And it's like I've been feeling that, but I didn't know that that was my shadow, because sometimes it's hard to understand. But I have here my physiology on the 33 says the final revelation, but I have throat and thyroid, and I know Kalman you had that. So something I haven't shared is that I grew up also going to church. I had a family that were very strict. My grandpa was a pastor. My mom was the organist from church. My dad played clarinet, and I did play piano. I learned piano from the age of 9 to 14. It wasn't I didn't want to play piano, but my mom kind of like not forced me, but I'm glad she did, because I didn't know I had that talent. I love sports, but music is another thing in my life that, I mentioned music too, about the music DJs and Katie when you sent me that song, but also I played piano for 5 years, and I played in church for about 7 years. I did play organ in church and for a long time. And I sang a lot. And I know you posted singing recently on your IG, Common. And I mean, when I was younger, singing church with the whole orchestra, I it was Christians evangelists, so pretty strict at the time,
Mhm.
and definitely had a lot of trauma, because we had to have long hair, no makeup, wear skirts, and a lot of things that didn't match with sports. And I was kind of in the middle, like, why is this happening to me? Like, I had to pick between both, either playing church or playing sports, because I'm not wearing skirts. And I'm thinking, wait, I love both. Why can I not do both? But anyways, I used to sing a lot, and I could reach some very high pitch like notes, and I also have a deep voice, and I have a really low box as well. I can speak really low, and I can speak really high. That's like between my mid and my low. But the throat and the thyroid makes so much sense to me now, because once I left Brazil and I came into US and started working and experimenting with a lot of partying, drugs, alcohol, and I never forgot who I truly was, but I wasn't experiencing who I really was, let's just say. And with all the partying within the years, smoking a lot of weed and late nights and crazy things, I completely lost my voice. Like, honestly, this is so huge now that it's hitting me right now. Like Karen saying, he said, okay, we gotta, as soon as he said we got 10, 15 minutes, things started coming to me. I was like, wait, I I need to share this if that's okay.
Yeah, of
But
course.
thank you. So the gift of my radiance, and it says here, throat and thyroid. So I think it was 2011. I went out one night and I lost my voice. So I in the club, partying, screaming, talking, and then you wake up the next day, you're like, oh my God, I can't
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, yeah.
So some people went through this before, right? You lose your voice and then you're like, okay, a couple of days later, you get your voice back. So this time my voice didn't come back. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and I'm like kind of freaking out a little bit. And I was like, oh, some people said, oh, laryngitis or whatever. So I went to the doctor and I found out that I had a polyp on my vocal cords, and it was there, and my voice wasn't getting better. So long story short, I had to do a laryngoscopy, and the doctor said, either your voice is going to be completely healed, or that it's going to be the same, or you might not gain your voice back after the surgery. So I've been through many recoveries in my life. Like, I broke many bones, surgery in my knee, just looking at my shoulders. I had cast. I was born and I had a cast. I was a club foot baby, right? I had a cast from like until I was 11 months. So it was crazy. But losing my voice and not knowing if I'm going to have my voice after the surgery, that was probably the toughest recovery I've ever had in my life. And it was the most challenging too. But I remember back in 2011 that I had a little fear, but in my mind, I was like, you know what? If I don't speak, I can learn sign language. I can express myself and still help people through my body position and then body language. So I was already thinking about, not in a fear way. I'm like, well, that's really cool, you know? But so after my surgery, for 10 days of my recovery, I couldn't speak. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't cough. I couldn't whisper. I could not do anything whatsoever. There's just no sound, no vibration. And that was such an experience. I was writing to my friends when they were asking me questions, and I had to express myself without being heard with my voice. And it was very, very challenging. Also, after my surgery, I regained my voice, but I lost all my strength. Like, I swear to God, I could not sing, not even a very low tone song. And that literally, that killed me inside. I was suffering so much because I was like, wow. I remember being able to sing in church and feeling so good, because it's just a feeling when you sing, you just get into that bliss. And even speaking now, I'm like kind of a little choking a little bit, but it's really real that I lost my voice and I was just so crushed that I felt very insecure, like calling places to order and working a lot of work. I talked for like 10 to 12 hours in the gym, and I was training. You have to be loud. I teach group classes. So at the end of the day, my voice was really low, and I always had that fear, like, oh my God, am I going to lose my voice again? Or being myself 100%, because my voice will like crack sometimes. And it was a very, very tough time. Like, more than anything physical that I experienced as a recovery, that was like, I was devastated, and it was crazy. So the detoxification and the breathing, the way I was able to regenerate my whole entire gut and my diaphragm, because the voice when you sing comes from deep into your diaphragm, right? Your low voice, your chest voice, your falsetto, and so I remember in the car throughout my breathing journey, I would do my breathing and I play a song and to see if I can reach those notes. And I'm like, wow, I cannot reach that note, but that was like motivation. I would sing, you know, this song, it's funny, but Sia as Chandelier, that's a very high pitch to sing, right? And she sings effortlessly. And there's no way I could hit those notes. And through breathing, through a lot of willpower and going back into where, like, the forgetting where I was when I was young, and I was able to sing all the notes and play. I love music. And honestly, this past 2.5 years, I've been able to heal completely. Like, I can fucking rip that fucking Chandelier song now. No problem if I want in my car. But the moment I was able to sing that pitch, like I was pouring tears, like crying so hard. It was just so crazy. I'm just gonna stop now because I know I'm gonna stop crying. But it makes total sense, like how this throat and thyroid. It says amino acid none, like terminator codon. I don't know understand about the codons yet, but yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Wait,
It's
which amino acid was that?
none. It says none. It
None.
says yeah, none. Sorry, none. That's my accent.
Hmm.
Terminator codon. I
Okay.
don't know what
Cool. I'll have to look
but
at
anyway, yeah, it's been pretty crazy, man. That was probably like the hardest hardship I've been through with my voice and communicating, because that's my whole personality. And losing that completely, it was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you were like, I remember how to sing, how to hit these notes.
It, man, it was crazy. It's an incredible feeling.
Beautiful, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's so cool, just like even just looking at your chart while you're talking about this and seeing how you tap into all of these gifts and all these little things. Like when you lost your voice, you're using invention, you're using all these ways to be able to
That's
communicate
right.
while maintaining silence. Like
Scared.
it's just so
I
cool.
was sad, but yeah.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle, do you think that you were doing some nose breathing then because you were like keeping your mouth closed a little bit, like without knowing it? I was like,
You
well,
know,
she's probably, yeah.
I was a mouth breather my whole life, because I mentioned to you guys, I suffer with respiratory issues. I had bronchitis, I had rhinitis, I had allergies, sinus infection, sinusitis, and my very, very last sinus infection was the hardest I ever had. It was when I decided to transition to a plant-based diet in the beginning of 2020. And that was 2020 was the last time I got sick with my body so clogged. But the nose breathing and the breath work and the restoration of organs and regenerating through CO2 threshold and nitric oxide, that was really what rebuilt my organs again, the breath. And thinking about, to sing, you have to be able to exhale slowly and control all the dynamics of the voice. You go up that
Yeah.
all the way
Pitch and
down
tone. Yep.
the pitch. And I know, Kalman, you're a singer too, right? You sang a lot, you said, for 8 years.
Yeah, I started in like sixth grade and I went all the way into like I think sophomore year of college. I did a lot of like in high school. I was part of like a bunch of extracurricular groups, and one we
Nice.
had to audition for, and we went and did competitions and stuff. Um, I was a tenor until my junior year of high school, and then
Nice. And you have thyroid issue as well, which is
yeah,
so cool.
I've had that since I was 10 years old. Um, I feel like, and I was talking on my Instagram how my voice and utilizing my voice and utilizing uh, just singing has created a lot of interoception, a lot of like awareness about the sensations inside my own chest and throat while I make tones, and then using my ears like in order to match pitch and tone and quality. I use my ears to like create just like harmony and syncing in with other people and connecting through other people. I was able to create what's called intonation. And intonation is your ability to match pitch and tone, to basically make two voices or more than two voices sound like one voice. So it's like using just like I never really cared for singing alone. Like I was like, whatever. Like I don't need to be, like an idol or a star or something. I liked like amplifying sound and tone and making that two voices sound like one voice, or that group of voices sound like one voice that could carry more vibration. And like I think that's changed so much about my internal structure and my chest and my diaphragm and my lungs, and it has allowed me to progress and do so many things with breath that I think a lot of people may not have access to. But there there's so many ways to access more space inside your body. Not to say that everyone has to go out and sing. There's like so many things you can do. You can do yoga, you can do meditation, you can do all of these things to create space. But that for me was definitely one of the ways I accessed all that. So it was very cool.
Yeah, Kara, he liked to amplify voices. He's got a completely open throat center. I was like, no wonder why you can match anyone's voice.
I'm also we were talking about this recently. I'm also really good at like doing impersonations. Like even when I was a like super young kid, like 3, 4 years old, me and my little brother would be like just like making fun of different accents and like trying different things and like just like making fun of people in that way. Like you know how like people like
Or having fun with the people, right?
yeah. Like just like I've always been good at that, doing impersonations. I can kind of make my face change shape and change the guttural and move things back into the nasal and like just yeah, play around with the sound. So I thought that was kind of funny. We're gonna do a little bit of research and see if there's like impersonators out there that have open throat in human design, if that's like a thing.
I,
Hey, that's awesome, man. I had a question, just a simple one. If a lot of people don't know the time that they were born, does that how much does that affect when you do someone's chart? You know?
So I think it affects like a decent amount of it. Not like I don't know specifics in terms of like if it changes keys, but I know it changes certain things, at least on the human design side, because
It would change the lines, and sometimes it would change the keys. It is, you want to know your birth time, and there are people who can help you like reconcile your birth time if you don't have that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I also I will add it to that real quick. I also think that all they want to know is the time zone. So the time specific doesn't matter in Gene Keys as long as they know the time zone of your state. I think I read that somewhere there because
yes, yes and
I
no, because I had I like switched the or Kara when she first did my chart switched the AM and PM and it changed
oh,
completely,
oh,
but everything was the same except for just AM and PM. Uh,
right.
they were like, "You're a manifesting generator, not a reflector." I was like, "I don't know
Oh,
what any of that means."
Yeah, it can change your type. It can change your type too. So it can change, you can change from like a projector to a generator. Um, there are charts though, like I always pick 12 p.m. if I don't know the time. For some reason, I feel like 12 p.m. is like a good time because it's in the middle of the day. And so like in astrology, there's like morning charts and evening charts. So like if you know if you were born in the morning versus the evening, I would say that's going to give you like a really good indicator on having more accuracy for your chart. But
Yeah,
I've seen it change people's type, and I've also seen it only change one gate for someone. Like I did a reading for a woman and she didn't have her exact birth time, and then when she came back, like it shifted her moon sign by like one line, and and she actually ended up having a channel that she didn't have before. So she didn't have the 2551. And then when I did her new chart, she did have it. But I think it's, if you know if you were born in the morning or evening, I would say that the differences are very subtle and they're maybe in the line. And what you could do is, it's really all about what resonates, right? So if you're not sure, read through all 6 lines and you'll have a sense of like what line actually matches your life or your story. Like when
yeah,
I first did my own human design, I thought I was a 3-5 for like 3 months. And it turns out my daughter's a 3-5. So knowing a lot about it actually helped me. But I finally got like the right chart for myself. And I was like, oh, I'm not a 3-5 at all. Like it was kind of a relief because I didn't really like, I was trying to like make it work for myself, and then I was like, oh no, this actually makes more sense. So it's also like what what you sense. And I think there's even places where Richard says like when you're going through the lines, for instance, like in the Venus sequence or any of the sequences, if there's a line, because these are wounds, right? So if you're identifying with a wound like from the lines, like that actually might be a wound for you more than what your chart is actually saying, like I don't know if if I'm making sense in saying that, but if you
yeah,
are reading through those and you really identify with one of them, I would say like work with that line.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
So we can for the next week, we'll finish up this book pretty soon, and then we can start to dive into, like different aspects. We'll explore things and ask more questions. We'll dive into human design a little bit and maybe start off doing the Venus sequence as well. But we can talk about that. And if you guys have any questions and stuff throughout the week, or if you want to share anything, definitely more than welcome to. But we're hitting an hour and 40 minutes, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
end it here.
Wow.
I was gonna say next week maybe we can have Katie, because I know I'd like to hear from you, Katie. I know we don't have time today, but next time, how are these fears and all your breakthroughs? You know, how did you find out that you're going through your shadows or gifts? Because I know we've been talking so much, and you haven't, shared, and I'd like to, hear about your spheres and your life's work and our evolution or radiance or something that you noticed, recently or years ago. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely
Yeah.
share next week. We'll look
Awesome.
at my chart a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys again. Appreciate you all for coming. Today was awesome. I got so much from it, and I hope you guys did as well.
Sounds good.
And
Bye,
yeah,
everyone.
Anytime.
Much love.
yeah.
You guys.
Bye bye. Have a great day,
We'll talk
y'all.
next week.
See
Have
you
a great day.
later. Love you guys.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye.